this man, Yankee Jarvis, Byron Lewis, and we would go across by Mr. Jack. Jack was Friendship and Walk, and we would talk for hours. I tell you, the wisdom that those men had. They could advise the government on anything from their experience. They were so wise, and they would sit down and criticize and laugh at the government what they were going on with. And they didn't go to any high school or anything like that, That's the porknocker.
Kwayana, from your book, I learned that I used to think that only grown people went to bush, but I learned from your book that young boys went to bush and they were cooks.
Yeah,
so
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a story like that in there about a man from Friendship. Yes, cook boy, they call them.
Yes.
Cook boy or cook boy and cook man. And,
they call them Bayer and girl here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bayer.
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 Yeah. Those were training.
That sounds like
I never knew that.
That sounds like Brazilian.
Well, maybe got the name from Brazil because there's a lot of Brazilian in the interior. So, but
no,
yeah,
but not in those days.
No.
You used to call them cookman, cook boy, or so on, Okay. That is quite true.
They call them Bayer and girl here.
Bayer.
So they call the women Bayer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's some people they call bushuman. And who went there for
prostitution.
I'm making my notes. Kwayana, I want to shift the topic. I've always been curious. You talk about Gangang. Can you tell us what she looked like? Was she a former slave? Who was Gangang?
Gangang is my favorite character in history.
Give her a description because I really want to get an image of her.
I knew one Gangang, but it was a common name that they gave to elder women as a mark of honor. Gangang lived not very far from where we lived in Lusignan. She lived in a range. Anybody knows a range?
Yeah.
Range?
Yeah, those were Indian houses, right? And
a range is a house with the floor flat on the ground.
Logie.
Logie is the older kind of range during the enslavement time. But after that, they had ranges. And this range would have a floor of mud raised up, well daubed with cow dung, made with zinc and wood, and a roof, and divided into several quarters, as many people they wanted to live there. Well, Gangang lived in one of those ranges, and right in front of her house was a green plot. Wasteland, nobody living there and playground life. Gangang was slim. When I knew her, she must have been between 60 and 70. With a head tie, she's wearing a head tie. She's sitting on a low bench outside of her house. This is hot sun. She's taking air outside of her house, sitting in the shade. And I'm a little boy, not in school. I around playing marble, playing around by her, where she's sitting and so on. And she is smoking a clay pipe.
Ooh.
And this was an old African custom. Smoke a clay pipe, the pipe made of clay. And every now and then she spit, put the pipe in her mouth and she going on, and that's her comfort. And whenever I turn up there and say, good afternoon, Gangang, she'll turn and look at me, picnic, Congo a high nation.
Mm-hmm.
Congo a high nation. I am about 4 years old, you know, but that thing stuck in my mind. I said, why is this lady telling me this?
Mm-hmm.
I knew that most of the Africans in Lusitania were called Congo.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we were Congo or not, this is how they saw us, Congo people, black people. And all she ever said to me, Picnic, Congo a high nation. In other words, this is something she wanted to implant in my mind.
Right.
And she's writing a book because she knows the lies that the Europeans told about Africa and why they had enslaved them and why and this and that and all the, you know, the notions of superiority and all of that. And she would have none of it.
Mm-hmm.
So she's telling me, don't believe that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Congo, a high nation.
Yes.
And they had their own music, their own drums, their own proverbs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have proverbs without wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
you see? And that was Gangang. But Gangang, I have Gangang in, I think, 3 of my plays
Right.
that I remember. I always put Gangang and Queenie in my plays
Mm-hmm.
because Gangang represented the wisdom of women who were experienced in this life. And Queenie represented the young women who would stop at nothing for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Queenie, stop at nothing. I think the University of Guyana is putting on a play of mine soon, a class at the University of Guyana, a play of mine called Proclamation.
Yeah, I heard about that one.
It has to do with the 1823 uprising. And Queenie is there. And Gangang is there. It's not the same Queenie and the same Gangang as in Promised Land,
Mm-hmm.
but they're a type.
Okay.
And I feel they're everywhere. And I wanted to make that point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that is Gangang.
Hey,
You know?
Yeah, I really like that because I'm always looking for our ancestors. And if she was 60 to 70 years old when you were 4 years old, she had been born in the 1800s, late 1800s, thereabout.
Oh, you were up there. So.
Yeah, it takes.
I don't say, she
did
may not have been
off there
70,
just.
but from my childhood thing, she looks like between 60 and 70, you know?
Which
She had stopped working.
which meant that her parents were slave or
Yes.
close.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So,
She
yeah,
was home
because,
all day.
mhm. Because you see, children listen to us talking. They might think that, especially in this generation, that slavery is a faraway thing. But we're 2 grandmothers away from enslavement.
That's right.
And so we have to
Precisely.
keep our stories alive because they're not always negative stories. It's about survival and redemption. Spirit.
That is quite true.
Yes.
What happened on those plantations showed the highest level of human thinking. The highest level of human thinking went on during slavery. It was not a time when people maintained their talents, their wisdom, and they had to struggle. They had to use it in various ways to break through, you know. And after a time, the plantation began to recognize it. And they had to make a lot of concessions here and there. Africans in Guyana could not marry until after 1823. We were there since the 1620s and could not marry. That's a great drawback to family development.
Yeah.
So we had to overcome all of that disadvantage. And that's what I tried to show in Proclamation and any play that I wrote.
Thank you. Somebody was making a point. If you want to make a point, like, click the thing, raise your hand so we can know. Somebody was saying something about it's in the book. Who's that? Do you want to talk?
I want to listen, please.
Yeah, somebody.
I want to listen for a change. So
yeah, somebody was making a point.
Yeah, can I make a point?
Go ahead. Yes.
You know, there's Kwayana, I know you have a lot of work and it's very hard to find. now that we have the internet and access is very, it's a small world because of the internet. Maybe I'm not certain if Kofi or someone else can make those books available at a cost so that people can read them and get a better understanding of our history and so on. Also, I know my dad mentioned that my aunt was a character in your plays. Can you speak a little bit about her, Norma Simon?
Who's your
The
aunt?
same Simon of the line daughter, basically.
Yeah, before you interject, people, your mics are on, and so when it's on, it drowns out what Kwayana is saying. So please be mindful and mute your mics. Okay.
Who's your aunt? Is it
Norma Simon.
Oh, yes, Norma Simon.
Yes.
She was a character along with me, not in my play. The two of us were leading characters in one of Shakespeare's plays.
Okay.
That was put on by Reverend D.W.H. Pollard. D.W.H. Pollard was a man from Den Amstel. He went to England to study. He did a bachelor's degree in English and so on. Very, extremely intelligent man. Came back with a white wife. He was at the Congregational Church, and he spent a lot of time in drama, organizing plays. Like, he studied drama too, And she was not the only person. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to, if you allow me, make a reference including villagers. The person who really set drama going in Buxton was teacher Ruby John. You ever heard her name?
Of course, she's an icon. I mean, 100 and odd years icon, yeah.
Yeah, teacher Ruby John.
Yes, yes.
She used to be working with a musician called Mr. Prophet, sanitary inspector from Plaisance, classical musician, Mr. Russell, all them playing these high music, We're not talking about Creole music now, we're talking about European music, like Boss Green. Mr. Walter Green was an expert in singing that kind of music from sight, using sulfatonic, although he didn't play any instrument, no. So the teacher Ruby used to have big choirs at her house. She had a piano, and Mr. Wills and Mr. Russell would go to her house with these choirs, and they would have a play, a musical play called like Esther the Beautiful Queen. The Bible people will know that. David the Shepherd Boy. And she has people from the village practicing and singing these plays and putting them on at the cinema or in some big hall, and then they became very famous. So Reverend Pollard came and followed up in that tradition, but he was not putting on musical plays. He was putting on plays like Shakespeare or other European writers. And that is where Norma Simon and I played in the same play, The Merchant of Venice. And she was a fantastic Portia. Her role was that of Portia, the lawyer in the court who tricked everything and had released the man that owed the money. Yeah. Norma Simon.
Yeah, and these are the missing parts of the history of Buxton. Also, there's a connection there with yourself and Teacher Ruby and the Buxton Anthem.
Yes, we're going to sing it before the thing is over. I got it on the screen. We got to sing it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a connection there, but the connection is not what you think. Many people think I had something to do with that item. The only thing I had to do with that item is the young people below my generation, is generations after me that taught me the Buxton Anthem. I didn't know anything about it when I was growing up.